Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week here at Post Wrestling. It is Monday, May the 2nd. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting as we enter another month, the requisite National Podcast Patreon Reminder Day across the podcast universe. Great time to sign up.
Always. It's always a good time to sign up, but especially at the beginning of the month. We got a lot of good stuff coming this month, John.
This is a packed week. It's going to be a packed month. Lots coming up. Here on the site, letting people know we will have shows this weekend covering both WrestleMania Backlash, the backlash of WrestleMania, UFC 274 on Saturday night. Not looking forward to this back-to-back deal, but nonetheless, that is what we have this weekend.
And it's the Moon Knight finale.
The finale.
On Thursday.
Season 1, Episode 6, correct?
That is correct, yeah. Me, W.H. Park, and I believe Nate Milton, and also Rich Fan will be there live Thursday evening talking about Moon Knight. And then on next Tuesday, WH and I and John Cena will have a Doctor Strange review. So It's Doctor Strange week. I'm looking forward to it.
And then what does MCU later go into? Is Ms. Marvel next?
I believe that's next, yeah. But that's probably not for a few weeks or months, actually. Maybe a month or two.
I think it's next month. I think next month it starts.
June?
Oh, okay. I think I read June 8th, but I stand to be corrected. But
You're probably right.
I'm on top of this stuff, Way.
Yeah.
I know all this stuff inside and out. My first question to you as we embark on this big week. Tuesday night, Rewind Away. We are covering the Tokyo Dome show from January 4th, 2003. Have you started said show?
No.
Well, I got through this whole thing. I am putting a cap maybe on some of these dome shows because this is New Japan they have fallen in love with MMA and shoot fighters. My God, yeah. This show it's something that is what is coming up on Tuesday night. So you have lots to look forward to. I'm very curious to hear your analysis of this show.
I don't know if I've seen any of New Japan from that era. Or 2003 at least. So
it was a fun time. Antonio Inoki's presence very much still felt in this company in 2003. Talks of potential involvement of Steven Seagal. We'll get into all of that surrounding this time period for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But that is coming up. And yes, you can join postwrestlingcafe.com. It comes with minimum 2 bonus shows. You'll get 3 this week with MCU later, with Rewind to SmackDown. If you love watching us doing the daily news show, it's even better listening to us because you get the audio feed of this news show every day with your custom RSS feed that comes right to your doorstep via email.
And we're uploading video now for all of our exclusive podcasts on Patreon as well, so you can watch us too if you want.
All right, so yes, we will be doing many shows this month for Cafe members. Maybe we'll file our taxes at the end of the month as well.
I've done mine.
Oh, are you done?
Already.
Okay, well,
I think they were due like last week, John.
Oh, I should check on that. I'm actually am ahead on that. But
okay,
there you have it. How was your weekend, Way?
Pretty good, yeah. Not so bad. Yeah.
What wrestling did you watch?
I watched Dontaku.
That's the best way to navigate these weekends. Is just I would say what's the biggest thing, and then try to do it instead of trying to catch as much of everything as possible. My head was spinning by Sunday. It's like this is too much every weekend. There was so much going on. I didn't even intend to watch all of TripleMania, but ended up watching a fair amount of it on Saturday, and then the Dontaku card I had to watch in multiple sit downs on Sunday, but got through that. I guess those were the major shows of the weekend, at least within professional wrestling, and it was highlighted by our top matches. There were multiple title changes on this show, 4 in total. But Kazuchika Okada retained the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Tetsuya Naito in the main event, their 3rd singles match this year. And afterward, Jay White making his return to New Japan. He has not been in Japan for anything wrestling related since Dontaku of last year. So he returns, lays out Kazuchika Okada, and a big theme of Sunday show was sort of fortifying the Bullet Club on their 9th anniversary. 9 years of the Bullet Club. It's just, it just feels just like several years ago that we were talking about the Bullet Club starting. Way. It's just been a breeze.
It's just been a breeze of time. You mean? Yes. Yeah, taking this opportunity. I mean, Dontaku is always seems to be the show that is the Bullet Club show, and this year I think coming at a perfect time when, for a lot of people, the Bullet Club's ascent. For a lot of people on this side of the world, the Bullet Club's ascent is directly correlated to New Japan's growth outside of Japan, and I think at a time now when borders are finally opening up in Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling is welcoming a lot of people, not just from their own employment, but also from other companies back into their company, having a Bullet Club maybe spotlighted show, I think is a great way of getting there, so I certainly, as a lapsed New Japan fan, I would say, took a lot of notice.
So we not only had Jay White appear on this, but Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson also appearing on the show, attacking Tama Tonga after he had won the Never Openweight Championship, and a mystery man who was revealed as Rock Hard Juice Robinson also showing up on the card as well. This, he had stated that his New Japan deal was up at the end of April, and I guess is sticking around with New Japan, and he was back. So a big focus on the Bullet Club throughout this show.
Yeah, really kind of, I guess, swerving all of us here. Juice Robinson, not going anywhere else, not leaving wrestling certainly, and instead sticking very much to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and also finding himself a role as the Bullet Club. And I mean, he's somebody I'm happy to see stick around in New Japan, because I don't know, in the current landscape with as many free agents as there are, if he would find himself in too much of a prime spot in, say, an AEW or, I don't know, Impact maybe. But I think New Japan is probably the best place for him. He's to be like most likely to ascend to a main event level while staying in this company and finding himself as a role as a heel for the first time that I've seen. I wonder how he'll do. It's certainly a test for him, even amongst Bullet Club right now. I mean, there's even amongst New Japan, I feel like, with the influx of talent, there's so many people, but he's going to get a chance to prove himself against Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yes. What did you think about the main event? Okada retained. They went 34 minutes and 12 seconds, and going into this, they had explained that they were 6-6 all time against each other in singles matches, and the ending of this very much, Okada throughout this 50th anniversary has really just been doing a tribute to Antonio Inoki, from the robes to requesting that we get Antonio Inoki appearing at a show, and in this one, ending with him hitting the famous Itsuguri style of striking from Inoki, and then into what Chris Charlton dubbed the Cobra Flosion. A Cobra into an Emerald Flosion, merging Strong Style and King's Road together and winning the match in 34 minutes and 12 seconds. And it just seems like this whole anniversary year way, it's like Okada is being positioned as like the next version of Antonio Inoki, and that visual of Antonio Inoki showing up at a New Japan event, I don't know if it's feasible for him to do that, but it just seems so much is built around that idea of getting these two men in the ring together. Could you imagine if Inoki could do a Rainmaker pose next to him?
Yeah, perhaps, they talked about him. I mean, Inoki publicly stated that his goal was to appear at the anniversary show, and that did not come to fruition. It's a whole year, I guess he has to make that happen, but part of me wonders if, Okada, like whether or not Inoki physically appears at the show, I don't think takes away from his significance attached to the company, and probably wouldn't, stop Okada from continuing to throw in those references either way. So the match itself, I really liked the last 10 to 15 minutes, but to me it was like the usual case with Kazuchika Okada main events, where I feel like honestly the first 20 minutes were pretty boring. They just, it's about as I think what you would expect, very patterned, typical spots, and maybe there's a lot of nuance that I personally didn't necessarily grab, but I thought it was kind of your expected fare.
You're ready to eat dinner and you're waiting for the water to get to the boil. We've got a meal to make here.
Yeah, certainly.
Let's get to it. I like the match. To me, it was certainly not the match of the show. I think everyone is going to agree. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii just tore it down. I would say this was their best singles match together, and they've had some classics before, and they were drawing comparisons to Ishii beating him in the 2013 G1 as Ishii's like first major signature victory and how he won it. And here is Ishii, who is your emergency backup after Will Ospreay fell out due to COVID, flown back to Japan to do this match, and they go out and have this classic. And it's Ishii utilizing, they're tying in like the Riki Choshu references to all of this, lots of work on the neck throughout this, and having Tanahashi kick out of the vertical drop brainbuster. Like they went out to have. This was not just, hey, this is the replacement opponent. Let's go out and put a nice match in. Let's have the match that will define this Tanahashi-Ishii rivalry. And, culminated with, Ishii was phenomenal in this match as he staggered to his feet at the end. This is after kicking out of a 1 count. They had traded each other's moves together. You have Ishii delivering sling blades, and then he takes the aces high and high fly flow in 23 minutes and 20 seconds. I think this one is going to be high on match of the year listings.
I think so too. Absolutely. If you're gonna, go out of your way to watch anything on this show, I mean, make it. There are a lot of angles on the show. I honestly like it's a New Japan show, absolutely worth watching. But if you're gonna watch one match in particular, it would 100% be this one. You're talking about two of the best sellers in the world, two of the people with the best fiery comebacks in the wrestling world, and I thought the end result here between the two of them in terms of quality was never in question. There's so many things you could appreciate on so many levels. Just the idea of both men having to goad each person into their specific style. So you ended up seeing Tanahashi doing a lot of Ishii type of, hard-hitting types of moves. You saw Ishii pull out things like a sling blade and, working over the body part, which is more typically Tanahashi's domain. You could enjoy it for, there were callbacks to their previous encounters with Ishii going for, the Ishii Driller, which is, I believe,
like
how the last time he beat him.
Like the Steiner screwdriver type of move, yeah.
Yeah, you can enjoy it from just simply seeing two guys hit each other as hard as possible from that perspective. Or you can enjoy it for the great babyface selling and the great comebacks. So as a double babyface match, that was put together on short notice, completely over-delivered, even very lofty expectations.
So I watched this card all over the place. I actually started with that match and then watched the main event and then started from the beginning. So the last match that I watched was El Desperado and Taiji Shimuri. I thought this was a terrific match. El Desperado has he has always to me been a diamond in the rough in New Japan, but really over this last, I would say, 18-month stretch, he has gone to another level. His selling was terrific in this match where his shoulder was destroyed. And Kevin Kelly's description of the shoulder when it's driven into the middle turnbuckle, he said, that wasn't a sound, that was a feeling that I am reacting to, seeing the shoulder destroyed. And he's fighting Ishimori with one arm throughout this. And he finally is able to hit a pinche loco, then goes for a second one, gets greedy, and it's countered into the bone lock, as you can see here. And the shoulder is destroyed, and he has to tap out, allowing Taiji Ishimori to win the junior heavyweight title. This was excellent. On most shows, this would have been my match of the show, but they had an unbelievable match of the year caliber match that followed this. But I would say, like, if you are pressed for time, that Tanahashi Ishii match, this would be my second recommendation on the show. These to me were the two highlights of the show.
I agree. Yeah, great selling from both men in this one as well. And I mean, all that, like Ishimori's shoulder work was fantastic. And I mean, it really needed to be in order to, protect Desperado on that finish. So I didn't necessarily see Ishimori coming out of this one as champion, but it certainly fits with the theme of Bullet Club dominance coming out of the show and perhaps sets the stage for a babyface victory at coming out of the Best of the Super Juniors.
Yeah, and we'll go over the field in just a minute. The rest of the results, Tama Tonga won the never openweight title from Evil, and that was when Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson showed up and attacked Tama Tonga. Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens won the tag titles from Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, but they beat Hiroki Goto, who was partnered with Yoshihashi. So the idea was the champions were not pinned in the match, and they'll run that back next month. Ryusuke Taguchi.
I'm digging Volley and Chase together as a team. They have sort of like a Brett Diesel type of thing going on. And it's probably the last time I will ever compare Chase Owens to Shawn Michaels. But, I mean, it's the type of dynamic where I think Owens' cockiness really comes out and Fale is just a dominant giant. Makes him look pretty good.
Yeah, they've introduced their new finisher now, which is kind of the old like rocket launcher, but into an elbow drop, and that's what they beat Goto with. Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato retained the junior heavyweight tag titles, defeating Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Doki. Tangaloa beat Yujiro Takahashi. Hiromu over Yo, and then in the opener, it was Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, and Taka Michinoku defeating Shingo Takagi, Bushi, and the replacement Shiro Koshinaka, who was in for Tatsumi Fujinami. So out with the 68-year-old Fujinami and going with the youthful 63-year-old Koshinaka, bringing his hip attacks to the Fukuoka PayPay Dome.
If my hips can move like that when I'm 63, I will be a very, very happy man.
This guy is the Shakira of New Japan legends.
They certainly don't lie. Those hips, yeah. We're going to talk about Best of the Super Juniors and Dominion, but before that, another return taking place at Dominion, of course, I guess in the form of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson.
That is right. So after Tama Tonga won the Never Openweight Championship, they were attacked by Gallows and Anderson. And yes, this was their first appearance in New Japan. This was always the plan, that when they signed with Impact, they had the New Japan option. But because of the pandemic, that has been delayed by 2 years. So getting over to Japan, and it looks like, you know, they have mentioned too, like their Impact deals are coming up. We will see if they continue to have kind of a split relationship, but at the very least, they're going to be in the New Japan fold going into the summer. And I would be curious as well about G1 involvement this year, at the very least with Carl, if not with both of them.
Well, I mean, I think the Best of the Juniors field certainly is a great indicator of what we may expect.
So they announced the both blocks for the Best of the Super Juniors that kicks off on May the 15th. So in the A block, we have Ryusuke Taguchi, Yo, Clark Connors, Hiromu Takahashi, who has won the last 2 tournaments, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Ace Austin from Impact Wrestling, Alex Zane, Francesco Akira, who just joined the United Empire, Taiji Ishimori, who will be going in as champion, and Sho. That is the A block, and the B block will consist of Master Wato, Robbie Eagles, Teton from CMLL, Bushi, El Desperado, Doki, El Lindemann from Glate, Wheeler Yuta representing AEW, TJP, and El Phantasmo. So how does this field stack up, Way, to your expectations?
I think it at least matches, if not somewhat exceeds. You know, I mean, I think at the very least we were expecting some New Japan Strong involvement. But not only that, you know, they had CML involvement here. There's Impact involvement, and there's AEW representation as well. So it really is just, I mean, these doors are blowing wide open for New Japan. And I think for me personally, it bodes really well for the G1. As an AEW fan, of course, I'm probably most interested in seeing Wheeler Yuta mix it up with, you know, people like Robbie Eagles or, you know, El Phantasmo or El Lindemann. I mean, I think all those matches look tremendous. So what about you, John? Who's the standout for you?
Yeah, I think Yuta being in there, that's going to draw a lot of attention, because he's been such a prominent figure in AEW over the last 6 to 8 weeks of television. And I'm honestly looking forward to seeing like Clark Connors in there as well. I think that this stands to be hopefully a big tournament for Sho, who I think like the House of Torture stuff has really kind of, to me, diminished him over this past year. There's some fresh matches for sure. I think El Lindemann is going to have some outstanding matches here. Desperado, like this is it's a very nice looking tournament on paper as we go into it. So again, that starts off May the 15th, and then it runs 13 shows culminating June 3rd at Budokan Hall. Also, they have announced for Dominion, which is the next major show, that will be on June the 12th, and we have 4 title matches announced thus far, with Kazuchika Okada defending the title against Jay White, Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens defending the tag titles against Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, Tama Tonga versus Carl Anderson for the Never Openweight Championship, and the rematch, the 30-count rematch between Shingo Takagi and Taichi. No stipulation has been attached to this yet, so that is still to come. But this was set up when Taichi pinned Shingo in the 6-man on Sunday, and the referee counted 6. So that was Taichi getting... The way they were teasing it was like, we're going to do something silly like a 100-count match or something.
Or at least something to follow up with, you know, the type of match that they had. They might just strictly do another version of what the same stipulation. I personally watched the match. I really enjoyed the previous match. So creatively, even if they choose to do a rematch, I would be looking forward to it. But yeah, something you love about New Japan is that they set everything up like the show prior. So you already have coming out of the last show a 4-match card, and I'm interested in seeing Carl Anderson versus Tama Tonga. And I don't know how many people would say that, but to me, like, Carl Anderson was most interesting when he was in a singles run in New Japan. And this is his opportunity to prove that he can go back to that version of himself.
As the person that is responsible for all of the post-wrestling graphics,
Yeah.
what do you think about the New Japan graphics?
Well, I think so don't let this be the representation of what they are, because
The finals are very nice, but this is my first look. So this is just give me your thought about this. I just find it very plain compared to like when we get to match time and they have a much more elaborate visual.
Well, it takes a lot of time, John, for to create a new look for every single one of these. So whenever they do the immediate match announcements, I mean, this is probably as quick of a job as the graphics people could do. Graphics person, even, probably. I don't know how big their team is.
Wait, no other company just does like the white backdrop and just throws the renders on top of a white backdrop.
Right. Well, I mean, it's fine. Like, and again, like the final graphics are typically much better.
Okay, so I'm barking up a tree that doesn't exist, is what you're telling me in a polite way.
It just doesn't bother me that much,
So there you have it. That is the New Japan latest. Lots coming up, and that Dominion show. I would imagine we're going to get G1 announcements. Like, that's the next big thing. Yeah. But you also have the Forbidden Door show in between there. So I don't know if we'll get any Forbidden Door announcements before Dominion is wrapped up. Tickets go on sale this Friday. How do you think Friday's going to do?
I think it'll do really well.
I'm thinking as we get closer, I'm thinking this one sells out. It's only a question of if tickets are still there after day one. I think there's going to be a high demand.
I think so too. Yeah, there was also, of course, mention of Jon Moxley, vying for the U.S. Championship. So I guess that they're going to do Juice versus Tanahashi first, and then
Moxley and Tanahashi is May 15th. That's in 2 weeks.
Oh, so they've already announced that match.
That's for Washington.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So, and that now becomes a title match in theory, unless you're going to make it non-title, which would kind of be odd to do a non-title match for the U.S. champion on U.S. soil.
Yeah. So it's either Juice versus. Well, I mean, they seem to have set up Juice versus Tanahashi, so I feel like we're going to get that.
I could see that at Dominion.
Yeah. So does that telegraph the conclusion here of Mox versus Tanahashi? Like, is Moxley going over to Japan at any point, you think?
I would think for sure. I would say for sure.
Before Dominion, or for Dominion, I mean.
Well, we're at a point now where he could go. It's not like you have to do the quarantine now. So it's not out of the realm that, especially with the Forbidden Door show coming up, that you had some AEW person show up at Dominion just to do an angle or to do something in that nature. Like, all of this stuff is possible now. And who gets to be on Ishii duty, where you're in a country, boom, you get over to Japan, and now you got to come back for this weekend to do Impact shows.
It should be Ospreay. Honestly, he owes him one, so he should fly across the world next.
Also going down this weekend was TripleMania, and WrestleTix reported 13,637 tickets distributed for this card in Monterrey. And if you saw the visuals, like this, I will say this, in terms of a big stadium feel, there was honestly a point during the New Japan show where I was like 1 or 2 matches in, and I remembered that they were in a dome. Like, it did not have that big dome feel to me at all during this show. Whereas this AAA show, it felt big. It felt really impressive. Like, the crowd heat was very strong throughout the show, and the production was at a high level as well. And it featured the opening of the Ruleta de la Muerte, Death Roulette tournament way, where the losers advance with someone getting unmasked, in theory, in October. And this featured Ultimo Dragon defeating Pentagon Jr., LA Park beating Villano Cuatro, Rayo de Jalisco Jr. over Blue Demon Jr., and Kinect at the age of 69 defeating Psycho Clown. So all the winners are out of the tournament. The losers advance. And there was a fair quota of smoke and mirrors in many of these matches to compensate for the fact that these were, in some cases, some older individuals that had to pull off matches. But I have to say this, the presentation of these matches, they had these great video pieces hyping up each performer and their history in Lucha Libre. And like the crowd saw these legends as such throughout this. They were extremely heated for the LA Park Villano Quattro match, and it had some stuff that I really did not enjoy in this. LA Park was just involved in that really like ugly incident that resulted in him and his sons not being used any longer by MLW. And in this match, like they relied on blood, which I understood why they were going to do that. But dude, some of the chair shots, like just blasting Villano in the head, were just, they were sickening to watch. But it's also like there's certain parts of watching this where it's like it's just another era of wrestling that has this audience responded to. Like they were into this the whole way, and I hated watching these chair shots and such, but it still got over to the crowd in a big way, and they saw LA Park as a major star in this. It was also complemented by numerous surprise appearances throughout, including Dr. Wagner Jr. coming out during the Psycho Clown match that led to Kinect getting the win, and then doing an angle where Andrade El Idolo came in and aligned with Dr. Wagner Jr. We had Cien Caras and Mascara Anos Dos Mil showing up, and that was in the match with Blue Demon Jr. and Rayo de Jalisco Jr., who overcame all of the interference to beat Blue Demon Jr., and the big angle on the show was when they brought out Latin Lover and announced that he would be going into the Hall of Fame, and were interrupted by Jeff and Karen Jarrett. So the Bullet Club had an international presence throughout the world on Saturday and Sunday. They came out with Rey Escorpion, and Jarrett just did all of like the anti-Mexican rhetoric, just inciting the crowd, and they attacked Latin Lover, and it was Vampiro that came out to a hero's welcome as he came to the aid of Latin Lover. So that was like the big angle on the show on top of it. And then, of course, headlined by the return of Rey Fenix teaming with Il del Vikingo to beat the Young Bucks. And this was just, dude, Vacango in this match. I'm sure you've seen some of the highlights. Like some of his dives were just out of this world. Phoenix did one where he ran across, like it's the 6-sided ring. So he goes through one section and then turns and then dives off. And this is as like, it's windy. You can see their hair flying in the place. There was rain apparently coming down. They did not compromise any of these stunts and such. And the only the only negative to it was at the end where Matt had Vacango pinned. Like the referee counted 2, and then he readjusted and started to count again, and Matt kept telling the official to count. So Matt got like a 9 count, which made me think that him and Taiji are going to work together in trying to thwart Shingo Takagi and do like a 9 count match or something like that.
Clearly, the future of wrestling is 30 count matches.
3 count, yeah, 3 counts are passe. Okay, you want to really definitively win a match, dude? It's 6 minimum.
Yeah.
How
did Phoenix look coming off an injury?
I mean, I watched it and I did not see him like compromised in any sense. I mean, to me, he was doing a lot of the stuff you would expect, and I can't say it was. We're going to get soon, I guess at the Dark tapings, they announced it would be him and Dante Martin in an Owen Cup qualifier. Yeah. So that would have to happen this week. So we will get a sense in a single setting what he's going to look like, because I would favor him to be the one that wins that match, which, dude, this men's tournament is going to be unbelievable if you're throwing a Phoenix in there on top of it.
High expectations. I mean,
highest. Like, my expectations are through the roof for this tournament.
Well, just that match alone, I think Phoenix, like we're talking about the qualifiers, that is essentially the first round that features a lot of can't miss matches. So, I mean, it sounds like he's back to full capacity.
So on the AEW front, they noted on Friday's Rampage the next 2 weeks, TNT is we've got the NHL playoffs starting. So TNT has a lot of NHL commitments, including on Fridays. So they noted that it's going to be earlier start times, at least the next 2 weeks. And it looks like it's a floating start time for Friday. The latest from AEW is a 5:30 p.m. Eastern start time. So that's a brutal time time slot. And again, this could be adjusted on top of it. So that's coming up this Friday. And I think I don't even know, like, how do you even approach these shows, Way? To me, I almost look at these as ones that you can say, hey, we've got to bulk them up because of this handicap. There's the other that, I mean, who is finding this at 5:30 or 2:30 on the West Coast? Like, it's to me, it's just hard shows to program if you want to put anything of significance on shows that people are just going to find after the fact if they are that desperate to see it, or they're going to skip it altogether.
Yeah, it's a tough thing for AEW whenever they have to dance around the network scheduling, and hopefully, this move to TBS is at least going to prevent it for one of their programs in Dynamite from this point on. But if you're AEW, I don't think you take your foot off the pedal in either case. Like, no matter what, you should be putting the best show that you can forward. Obviously, it doesn't mean putting maybe some of your well-built matches that you should probably save for a bigger stage out there. But I also think you can't give up on a show and just have it be a throwaway show either. You want to try to attract people, even if it's 2 or 5:30, to watch something that is worth their while, especially for people who choose to watch at 5:30 to make it worth their while. And if not those people, then the people that'll watch on replay, which I think will be, potentially numerous, if the show is good enough. Or, if it's not a good enough show, then people might just skip it altogether.
I would, I would guess that the DVR figures would be huge for the show. The problem is, like, if it doesn't start at 5:30, like, you might not even be able to capture it, even if you're not available to watch it at that time, if 5:30 ends up not being the start time. So hopefully at least they can have a concrete start time, and I would imagine DVR viewership will be very, very high for these weeks, given the AEW audience. Tonight on Raw, they are at the Greensboro Coliseum, and we've got the Bloodline appearing on Raw.
Yeah. I mean...
They are going to show up and stand in the ring for 3 hours.
That's it, eh?
That's
it.
You're
right.
We've got like nothing. So like, are they here to do anything? They're going to appear. They'll take over Raw tonight, and that's what we have.
That's it. Yeah.
That's our Raw preview.
Yeah.
That's as much as they've given us.
It's a totally the opposite of what AEW goes through, in that the announcers have nothing to announce.
Can you imagine Excalibur in WWE? Coming up next week, Greensboro Coliseum, the Bloodline will be here. See you next Monday. I'm Excalibur. God, he could exhale on this show.
Oh, man. He'd have too much air in his lungs, from breathing so much, from all the silence. It's a tale of two different paces, and there's a good balance somewhere in between. But yeah, Raw. I mean, even at the start of like preparing for the show, there was nothing up on this site, not even this Bloodline thing. So I'm sure the graphics people in the WWE are waiting just now for every.
I'm sure we'll get some stuff this afternoon. But as of now, as we're doing the show live, that is the hook for 3 hours of your time tonight. Is the Bloodline will appear on the show.
Yeah.
So, Way, anything super going on?
Yes, there is something super going on. As always, if you're watching us live, youtube.com/postwrestling every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get a question in or just a comment, you have a chance to send a super chat. It supports the show, supports the network, and gets your voice up on the air here. We start off here with Brian Dillon, who sends a €10 super chat. He says, "Hey guys, I understand boxing is not on your radar, and I am biased, but the Taylor Serrano fight was incredible. Ariel Helwani was raving about it and has an amazing clip up of the last 30 seconds.
This was certainly on my radar this weekend. This would have been the biggest, to me, combat sports related event of the whole weekend on Saturday. I did not see the fight, but yes, it got tremendous reception to it at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to hear it. I mean, it's a history-making main event in MSG, and the fact that it was a great fight on top of it. I mean,
if you look up our good friend Corey Erdman on Twitter, he wrote actually an excellent piece on this fight over at Boxing Scene. If you want to check that out.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Brian, for the support. We got a Charles League who sends $5 and says, thoughts on the reports of Dark Side of the Ring being canceled?
That was a report in The Observer last week that Dark Side was not being renewed, but in its place is this new series that will involve $7 Productions, Dwayne Johnson's company, with Evan Husney and Jason Eisner of Dark Side of the Ring doing a new series, kind of a sort of a roundtable discussion on various territories that Jim Ross has noted that he would be involved in. I think it's a pretty significant move from Vice TV, given the popularity of Dark Side of the Ring and wanting to pivot away from that, but obviously still staying in the wrestling space. And you can only speculate on why that decision is, if this is going to be something that is less controversial than the topics covered in Dark Side of the Ring, to going to something that still caters to a wrestling audience. I could not speak to that. I don't know what necessarily the reasoning was, because you certainly can't point to numbers. This was by leaps and bounds the most successful programming in the history of Vice TV.
Yeah. And I certainly don't feel like it would be a lack of stories, because I think there's still so much left to be covered in professional wrestling, just even all the way going up to modern times. So I don't think it's a shortage of that. But I mean, listen, when Dwayne Johnson wants to be involved in your network, I think it's worth listening to him, and I'm sure it's worth.
And worth noting as well, like in the Observer report, was that not only Jim Ross being involved, and Jim Ross has stated as such, but one of the people involved is like Michael Hayes. So that would indicate that Dwayne Johnson is involved in this, and you have WWE participation in this. That does not exclude someone like a Jim Ross from being involved as well either. So I'm sure there's a lot more to this story to look into. And on that note, I'm going to do something that I don't know if ever happens in the world of wrestling podcasts. Are you ready for this? I'm going to plug another wrestling Patreon that is out there, and that is the Between the Sheets crew of Chris Zellner and David Bixenspan. You talk about different stories that are still out there. David Bixenspan in particular over the years has done as extensive work as anyone researching into the WWF sex scandal of the early 90s, and they just dropped a show going through that whole time period that began in 1992. Not just the drug stories, but the allegations of sexual abuse. It's like a 6-hour show. It is, the research is unbelievable, and I cannot recommend it enough. But it's a major story that is out there. It's very uncomfortable listening. So certainly you have to go in there with that knowledge of a lot of the descriptive language of allegations and such. But they do a phenomenal job over there at Between the Sheets, and that's part of their Patreon. And they just dropped that over the last couple of days. So I wanted to make mention of that.
Very cool. Thank you guys for your super chats, and thank you, John.
Okay, we're back tonight. Wai and I will be live at 11 Eastern here on the channel with Rewind to Raw, where we are going to review the Bloodline taking over Raw.
Yes.
I'm sure yes, we're going to go through each individual, what their contributions were to Raw, what the fallout is, how the fans responded to the Bloodline on Raw, and this 3-hour threading of the needle that is the Bloodline on Raw. So I look forward to chatting with you about that. Our whole schedule is up at postwrestling.com. Lots of great stuff this week, including the Tokyo Dome review that's coming out on Tuesday night, as we will be chatting New Japan from January the 4th of 2003, and all of the other shows coming your way up at postwrestling.com. But that is going to wrap it up for the Post Daily News Show.